Hi, everyone. If you could put in the chat, if you could hear me, see my screen okay, giving me a thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone. My name is Rhonda Remy. I serve as the Director of MBA Recruitment and Diversity Partnerships here at Georgetown University McDonough School of Business. I am here to talk to you a little bit about our Flex and Flex Online MBA programs, and then followed by a mock class with Professor Goodstein. So, again, so happy to have you all here tonight. One thing that I truly enjoy about getting a chance to meet prospective applicants in the MBA program is just learning a little bit more about where they're coming from. So if you can put in the chat where you're dialing in from, are you interested in the Flex DC in-person program or the Flex Online program? Go ahead and put that in the chat. All right, Tampa, Austin. I was just in Austin and it was a little chilly. All right, Tulsa, Baltimore, Arlington Falls Church, Indianapolis. I love it. I see New Jersey. Anyone from New York? Let's see. There's always one person from New York, my hometown, in-person flex. Good. So there's a good mix of you all today on in the call. So to talk a little bit more about Georgetown and what makes it unique, you can think about it in three different ways. So, global mindset and what that may mean is obviously, if you've done some research about Georgetown, we pride ourselves on global diversity, ensuring that we are recruiting top talent from across the world. It's not about how you do business, but it's about doing business on a global scale and doing it well. So when it comes to our program, we do offer opportunities for you to travel, to learn from different perspectives in the classroom. For example, one of the highlights of the program is the Global Business Experience, where you do have an opportunity to travel abroad and work with a global partner. Last spring, summer, our Flex Online students had an opportunity to work with Uber in Portugal. So just sharing more of the opportunities that we do have and that we're trying to create more opportunities for you to travel. We have just launched a partnership with a school in Paris for our Flex Online students. So it's an opportunity to study abroad for 1 week with other MBA students from, for example, Duke, UNC, and George Washington. Besides the global mindset and the global perspective in the classroom, just thinking about DC, it is a natural hub for global diversity. We are surrounded by multiple embassies, but then overall, the corporations that have headquarters here are all multinational, giving an opportunity for students to, one, work with employers or recruit at certain companies with a global reach. The Washington, D.C. access. So for our Flex Online students, you still have an opportunity to come to D.C. and experience that as well. But being in DC, it is a lively, vibrant city. I'm originally from New York and I grew up in Montreal, Canada. So I love the opportunity knowing that it's a melting pot, but it's not as hectic as the hustle and bustle of New York, but it offers you an opportunity to expand and network with multiple organizations, multiple different types of people. Within the Washington, D.C. and the Northeast area, we do have quite a few alumni in this area that are always looking to connect with current students, students that are thinking about coming into the program or just admitted into the program. And even if you're still in between, right? They are always willing to connect, and it makes for a lively and you know, it gives you an opportunity to just know where you can go here in the Washington, D.C. area. Besides that, When we think about principal leadership, we are a Jesuit university based on Jesuit values. One of the values being cura personalis, people for others, a community and diversity. All of that is shown in our curriculum design, our co-curricular activities, where we often give back to the community that surrounds us and abroad. So in the curriculum design, ethics is a course that you would have to take, but then overall, what we try to develop in our students is ethical leadership, principled leadership. When you're thinking about solving a problem, you're not just thinking about the bottom line, but you're thinking about how it affects the people around you. And you'll have those types of conversations in the classrooms. You'll see it in the case studies, and you'll see it in some of the opportunities for projects, whether it be research, teaching assistants, or even in the GBE project. So I talked a little bit about the DC area just being a central hub for global diversity, but it's also an intersection between business and policy. And you do not have to come into our program with a policy background. What I love about this area is the fact where you understand what is coming down the pipeline when it comes to different policy changes, but how it affects business and vice versa, right? So in the classroom setting, you get a firsthand view of how organizations, companies are taking into consideration some administrative changes, some policy changes that may affect your business model. And what we're trying to see and develop in our students is how you can make a sustainable business model, especially when there are so many changes. If you are not familiar with the DC area and are looking to transition for a job in the DC area, or even when you are here for your residencies, it is a commutable, very commutable, walker-friendly city. We do have something called the Gut Shuttle Bus, which is a free shuttle service throughout the DC area. And we have multiple stops that connect students to very popular, busy train stops. So if you are familiar with the Arlington area, DuPont, Roslyn, and even on Wisconsin Ave, you'll see some of our shuttle buses going around the city. So one thing I am very excited about and excited to see, in the fall semester is our new curriculum. We had just announced this, I would like to say maybe 2 weeks ago, but with our new curriculum design, we are offering more opportunities for students to take electives, to customize their education and their path, while also redesigning some of our core classes to ensure that students are, one, data and AI literate, but then also, making sure that they have the tools currently that employers are looking for in MBA grads. So this was a long process, a great opportunity for employers to give their feedback, alumni to give their feedback to inform this new curriculum design. As I mentioned, you have the opportunity to take on more electives. And when you think about the elective pool, just don't think about the School of Business. You do have the opportunity to take up to 13 credits outside of the School of Business and other parts of the university in other specialized master's programs. So if you were more interested in something more niche-based like sports management, we do have a specialized master's program within the university that you can potentially cross-register and take a class in. But this will go live this upcoming fall 2026. And if you have any more questions about the new curriculum design, I would suggest going on our website and seeing our news article. Another thing about our curriculum design is that, back one more, is that for our Flex and Flex Online programs, you do have 3 residencies, 2 that are 1 week long in DC, and then the third would be your global business experience. So I mentioned a little bit before that you have the opportunity to work on a consulting-like project with a global partner, but then within that GBE experience course, you have 1 week where you get a chance to travel to that location to present your findings to the employer. So again, three different residencies. They are all required for degree completion. Here are some locations that we tend to go throughout the year, and it varies at certain point. I know for our full-time MBA program, we have introduced Dubai as a new location, and we're going to Brazil this year. And then, as I mentioned before, our FXO students had the opportunity to go to Portugal. So again, just a snapshot of areas that we went to, but we're always looking for new cities and new opportunities for students to travel and learn more on a global scale. Our career center is established with different career coaches in various industries. So depending if you need more support, if you're looking to switch your career, or if you are looking to move up in your at your current employer, you can work with one of our career industry coaches. So we have industry coaches that focus on entrepreneurship, consulting, real estate, hospitality, marketing, etc. You'll also be paired with a second year peer advisor, just giving you more support for coaching opportunities. And then other things that will come to you throughout this process is the opportunity to have mock interviews with our career coaches to ensure that you are well prepared for whichever opportunity is available for you. We do have quite a few conferences that you can attend, even as a flex student, and career days, whether it be virtual or in person. And what I do appreciate about the career days, some of the career days are industry specific. So if you were interested in another role in marketing, we do have career days where recruiters that are coming into our school looking just for marketing roles, to fill marketing roles. So all of that information will be available to you through this job recruiting board. And again, you can always connect with a career coach throughout your time in the program, and not, just in the beginning or towards the end when you are thinking about, transitioning to another role. Another great part about our programs is that you do have the opportunities for different leadership positions. In all of our clubs and organizations, there is an FXO representative, student representative. You do go through this rigorous process of, looking for students to vote for you in order to be elected into some of these positions, but you get a chance to be a liaison between your student body and then also work with faculty and administration. And I mean, we all understand that, an MBA program is an investment. So there are some opportunities for scholarships. The full list will be listed on our website. It is not a separate application for you to apply for scholarship. It is all based off the merit of your one application, right? So always submit your application when you feel that it is the strongest, that you have the best letters of recommendation, that, all your essays are answering the prompts and well written, and that you have all your academic transcripts, right? So making sure that your application is strong and ready to be assessed will definitely get you a great consideration for scholarship. And one thing I will say is that, with the help of career services, and even after, the MBA program, and you're thinking about the ROI, on average, a medium salary, and this was this current employment report, you can see the medium salary there, the average signing bonus. But overall, when it comes to the MBA program, and as a flex student, we tend to see students salaries increase as they go through the program, not after they finish the program. And here are some application components if you haven't already applied to our program. And here are the upcoming admission deadlines. So if you had applied in round 2, you'll hear back very soon in on March 11th. And if you are looking to apply for our next round, the application deadline is April 1st, and you'll hear back on May 13th. If you would like to stay connected, here are some ways to stay connected. We do have a chat feature with student ambassadors. So if you ever wanted to learn more about the student experience and how they kind of juggle it all as, you know, a working professional and as a student, please, please, please connect with them. And that is all. So I'll stop sharing my screen, but I really wanted to leave time if anyone had questions for me before we jump in to the mock class. So let me look in the chat. And don't be shy. You can put your questions in the chat.
Oh, yeah. I was going to add a couple comments before
Oh,
they go,
okay,
if
go
that's
ahead.
okay.
No worries.
I'm Professor Goodstein. I
Mhm.
better be good tonight because I did the math. If all 30 people came here and given the fees of the program, whether or not I do a good mock class could cost us $5,850,000. So I feel a lot of pressure now. I didn't know that. Um, but I wanted to say a couple things real quick. So one, I want to put this on in the background.
Okay.
This is one of my favorite ad campaigns ever that ran throughout the city, print campaign in New York. And so one of the things you mentioned was people for other people, and we're a Jesuit institution. For those of you who don't recognize it, Goodstein is not a very Catholic name. Okay. Goodstein is a Jewish name. Not very religious, but that is my culture. And so when I get afraid every time we talk about it's a Jesuit institution. The idea of whole person is just that we give back to others. There are Jewish people here, there are Christian people here, Baha'i faith, Muslim faith, everybody is represented. So you don't have to be Catholic to give back to others and do right for society. So I just wanted to point that out. So, do you have to be Catholic to go to Georgetown? No, you don't have to be Jewish to eat Levy's real Jewish rye. Okay, so that's what the ad's for. The other thing I want to talk about Georgetown for a minute is I want to talk for just a second about teaching here. So I'm on sabbatical. I'm actually on a research sabbatical. Every 7 years, faculty get a semester off with pay to just do their research. But I volunteer to do this because teaching matters here. So one of the things I want to talk about versus some of the other schools is we really love our teaching as well as our research, and teaching counts here, unlike a lot of other institutions. So you're going to get people who don't see it as a pain to have an evening course or flex course or whatever it is. The faculty here want to work with you, want to get you involved in their research, want to help you with your job search. So I just wanted to point both of those things out about professors, their attitude towards teaching here is a real plus. And don't get scared because it's a Jesuit institution. There's a lot of us here who are not Jesuit who still, drink the Kool-Aid. All right. So now it's a ask away.
Awesome. Thank you. So I see that some questions are coming in. Can we accelerate the program? Yes, on average, our students finish the program in 3 years. They have up to 5 years to finish the program. The fastest you can complete the program is in like 24, 26 months. So yes, you can do that. There is a question about healthcare leadership and policy. We do have a certificate in business of healthcare, and there are some specific elective courses available for that one certificate. So there are times where a nursing student, if they are interested in some business related courses, may have an opportunity to cross register, but it is based off of program approval. Trying to get through all of these questions in. Can you talk more about the interview component? So the interview component of the application, yes, you should prepare just like a job interview, right? I know quite a few of us know what the STAR method is when answering questions in an interview. But yes, please do come prepared. You will be asked to bring your resume if it's in person, if it's virtual. We should already have that in our system. Yes, please be prepared. Please be prepared to also ask us questions so that you have a better understanding of things going on at Georgetown about the program, anything that is of interest to you. For next year's application deadlines, we do not have that available. Those will become available. I want to say we typically share that end of June, early July. Trying to get through all of these. For online students, how can we find online electives that are available to us from other schools? So those electives are available when you work with your program advisor. They'll have a catalog of courses that you are able to cross-register for. Sometimes you'll need program approval and some you may not. So you'll work with your program advisor to see any courses that may be available at another school. Great question. For class times, you can either have classes on Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it depends on the courses that you've registered for. For the courses that you've registered for, especially the core classes, it will either be the Monday, Wednesday schedule or the Tuesday, Thursday. Can you attend the same networking events as full-time students? Yes, you can. All of the services are available to all MBA programs. All career services are available to MBA programs, all MBA programs. Let's see. Are round 3 applicants still considered for scholarship? Yes. Everyone who is accepted into our program are assessed for scholarship. We do require the GMAT or GRE or executive assessment. We do also offer test waivers. If you go on our website, you can see the requirements if you are looking to apply for a test waiver. But overall, we do require GMAT, GRE, or executive assessment. Okay. For the online program, if I wanted to do an internship, can career services help with that? Yes, they can. It also depends on what type of internship. If you are in our part-time programs, the assumption is that you are working full-time. So if you were looking for something that was short-term versus the traditional internship, in the summer, then yes, you can obviously work with career services, but also tap into your networks too. And they'll also connect with alumni if there are specific projects that you can work on. Our class is recorded, so we can watch it if you're unable to make class. I'll let Professor answer that.
Yeah, that is up to the professor. So I make sure not to have my classes recorded because to me it stifles some of the conversation, may stifle some colorful language about how people really feel when we measure attitudes about advertising or something like that. If I know a student is out and they want me to record it, I will record the class and make it available to them individually, but I'll let the rest of the class know we're recording that day. But the default is to have all classes recorded unless you opt out. So that's the current policy. Although the big university, is revisiting that and may change the code on that starting next fall.
How do Flex students typically decide between in person or Flex online? That's a great question. It all ultimately comes down to you. Overall, you know, to be in the flex program, you do need to be in commutable distance because the courses are live in person on campus. For our flex online program, they are synchronous online. So that is Zoom classes for either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday. So it just depends on what you may need at that time. Um, there are times where we see students transition. Say, for example, they were here in the DC area, had an opportunity to go to another location for with their employer. But that's something that you would work with your program advisor to switch you to the online program, for example. Um, and obviously, that's case by case. So
I have
that
a
does happen.
comment for
Yeah.
MG. MG, how bad is your GPA? That's I can't. It's just sitting there. I had to hit that. Yes, there are certain parts of your application that make up for others.
Mhm.
Okay, but but there's a limit. So I don't know how bad it was that you asked that question. But it's a good thing you just used initials. So
So one thing I will say as well about just your GPA or certain application components, look at our class profile where you can see the range of GPAs that we may have brought in this past cycle, and understand that there are multiple components to your application to better assess who you are as a potential student, right? So you may have had a low GPA, but the scale may be different, right? There's so many things that may have happened. So being able to better explain it in your optional essay, for example, is important. And again, it's case by case. So if you wanted to talk more about your application, please, you can reach out to me personally and we can have a one-to-one chat.
on terms of is there any more information on the courses? Online, if you look up the professors that may be teaching them and see who's teaching the courses, many of the professors post their syllabi, so you can get more details there. And many of the course descriptions that are available through the university, they also have us post our syllabi, so you can get more information. If you cannot see it, just send a note to the office and ask, can they send you the syllabus for a particular course?
All right. That was a lot of questions. You guys are a lively bunch, and I love it. So now we are going to transition to the mock class. Give me one second. Let me just make sure I unshare. They have it as a webinar, so no cameras for the participants,
Oh
unfortunately.
man, too bad. Can they open their mics?
I can triple check right
Okay. Savannah,
now.
she raised her hand. So Savannah, can you try to talk and then we'll know if if your mics are open. Oh, nope.
No
Thank you.
mics.
No mic. Yeah, this is gonna be tough. All right. Rhonda, will you help me out? So I'm
Of
gonna ask a
course.
bunch of questions and they can answer in chat. And you
Yep.
can tell me what's happening in chat. Okay.
Definitely. I
Okay.
got you.
All right. Okay. So again, I'm Professor Goodstein. I have not taught in the MBA Flex program yet. I have spent the last 10 years teaching the undergraduate. So when I was hired here away from UCLA to come here. I was moving to this coast and I've been here. This is my 25th year. So I'm one of the old timers. Um, and I love it here. And I was hired to just teach in the MBA programs, no undergraduates at all. And for the first 10 years of my career, that's all I did. And things went really well. We were trying to revamp our undergraduate program. The chair of the marketing area asked me if I would take that on as a charge. And so I did. So I taught in both programs for about 5 years. And then I was asked by the then next chair, would I just take over the undergrad program and sort of make it my program? And so, yes. And so I've been there for the last 10 years and loved it. The new chairperson of the marketing area has asked me to return to the MBA and do both again. So I am looking at Flex probably next spring for me. Um, and depending on when the new marketing course is going to be offered. So I could be in Flex, I could be in the executive MBA program as well. So, um, but my approach to it and what my approach to today is there's a lot of case teaching here, and it's sort of Harvard business cases, although I don't stick to Harvard and I use a lot of cases from experience, as well as in my courses. I will cancel a day and do what I call a Friday. So I was an undergraduate at the McIntyre School at UVA, and my professor there, who taught marketing research, which we had to take 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for a full year, had a policy. On Fridays, we could talk about anything relevant to the marketing world and didn't have to stick to the syllabus. And I always loved that idea. So in all of my classes, I have what's called Fridays. So even though I only teach 2 days a week, typically Tuesday, Thursday, my students could call for a Friday if something goes on that's important. So this year we canceled what was on the syllabus and we discussed, for instance, the election. We discussed Cracker Barrel's choice to cancel their old logo and come back and do what they thought was the right thing to do. We spent half a day talking about Bud Light and the Dylan Mulvaney decision and why their Bud Light's marketing executive should be fired or not fired. And all three of these things, by the way, are also issues that I got interviewed by various media outlets to talk about. So one of the cool things about being at Georgetown is you get asked a lot about the media stuff. I have an interview tomorrow about previewing some of the Super Bowl ads with one of the online news outlets. So it's kind of fun. So what Ron and I thought for today would make some sense is to give you the flavor of a class, right, and a case class without having to be actually in the class. So that's where I'm going. I'm going to share with you some slides. Okay, there's no Levy's Real Jewish Rye in it, just to let you know. Okay, and um, so this is just an introduction. Ask questions anytime you have them. I'll ask Rhonda to help me if the questions come up because I won't see everything because I'm looking at the slide deck. Just to ask, okay? So it's a live case. It's not a Harvard case. There's nothing to read, and I'm just going to title, for lack of a better word, I'm going to ask, do you know Jack? Okay, and I don't mean Jack the Bulldog, our mascot. So, okay. And here's sort of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about brand equity, which is one of the most researched areas in marketing in the last 25 years. We're going to talk about doing customer research, and we're going to talk about getting better, right? And better is a really important word. Um, so let me talk for a minute about brand equity. Okay. Does anybody know what brand equity is? Or if anyone knows what brand equity is, can you put something in chat and let Rhonda take a look? What's brand equity? How do I know whether or not my brand has equity?
The value of your brand.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
People are thinking, all right. Perception from consumers.
Right.
Manuel says goodwill.
Uh-huh.
Commercial value from consumer perception.
Okay. So some of the things that are really important here are consumer perceptions. And you're right. I mean, brand equity, measuring it is the difference between the book value of your assets and the, selling value of your stock. And it really became famous when Philip Morris bought Kraft, and they bought it for about 5 times book value. And people said, Philip Morris, you're crazy. And they said, no, we're not crazy. The value of Kraft is not its assets. The value of Kraft is in all their brands because we can expand those brands. We can expand where we sell them. We can expand and make more Kraft macaroni and cheese kind of products. We can make more kinds of barbecue sauce. We can make other barbecue sauce. So one of the key measures of brand equity, and there's several of them, But some of the key measures of brand equity are brand awareness. Does your brand come to mind when people think of the product category? Okay, that's one of the key measures. Um, do you deliver, from consumers' perspective, do you deliver a quality product? Because in some sense, it doesn't matter if your product is good or bad. Customers' perceptions determine whether you're good or bad. So the customer thing was really important that people pointed out. What are the images that go with your brand? What are the associations that go with your brand? And brand equity can be negative. So if I had a car and told you, a brand new car, and you asked me who made it, I said General Motors, you're probably going to diss it more than you would if say it said Toyota on it, or or something else on it. So the brand associations, you want strong, unique, and positive associations, and then you want a loyal following. Okay, so those are all measures. So I'm going to do a test of brand equity. Okay, so I'm going to do some primary research. Okay, now if somebody else wouldn't mind, what's the difference between primary research and secondary research? No takers?
Coming, it's coming. They're thinking
Okay,
or
okay,
typing.
all right. I forgot people have to type. They're thinking hard.
Oh,
Okay,
primary
yes.
asking a customer directly.
Okay.
Articles.
I don't, okay, whoever SD is, I'm not on the admissions committee, but as far as I'm concerned, you're in. Okay, because you're right. Primary research means I asked questions directly to the target market I'm interested in affecting or finding out from. And secondary research is, yeah, going and doing research that someone else did for some other purpose that I can tap into. So you're right. Okay. So I'm going to do some primary research with you. So let me get rid of this chat. Okay. I'm going to do some primary research right now. Okay. So, um, uh, okay. So brand equity. And here's what I'm going to do. Okay. In primary research. Okay. You can't turn on your mic. I thought it was all up there. Okay. So I wanted you to yell out an answer for me, but you can't, but type out an answer. So I'm going to name a product category for you. And all I want you to do is type the very first company that comes to mind. I don't want you thinking a whole lot. I just want your initial gut reaction. I'm going to name something. So for instance, this is practice, right? And you don't have to write anything for this one. If I had said breakfast cereal, okay, you might have said Captain Crunch, okay, because I think that's the best breakfast cereal, right? You might have said Raisin Bran because they're going to spend $4 million on a Super Bowl advertisement, which I think is one of the worst ads I've seen because I've already previewed about 30 Super Bowl ads. And I think that theirs is one of the weakest ones in there. Um, and I mean, they're being the interview tomorrow with the press is on the Super Bowl ad, who the spokesperson is, which is supposed to be some big surprise. And they're using scatological humor in it about what brand makes you do. Okay. And so I think it's pretty bad, but that's the top, so that might be the top of mind. But the reason why this is so important is if I asked you to say breakfast cereals and you listed Rice Krispies, you listed Kellogg's Corn Flakes, Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Captain Crunch, Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios, Life, Cinnamon Life. Okay. If a brand doesn't come into your mind, you're never going to buy it. So you may not have said Mucilix. Okay. Well, Mucilix is a breakfast cereal. But if it never comes to mind for you, it's not part of your evoked set, you're never going to buy the brand. So one big thing that brands try to do is make sure they have top of mind awareness. Okay. So here's the real question. So this time it's time to type. I'm going to name a category and you tell me the first brand that comes to mind, or you tell Rhonda the first brand that comes to mind. Okay. The product category is fast food.
McDonald's, Chick-fil-A,
Okay.
Checkers.
Yeah, there's a Checkers, McDonald's, Burger King. Okay. All right. But when most people say McDonald's is the most popular answer. Okay. There's other ones, but it seems like the majority of you listed McDonald's. Okay. All right. This is back to me. So let me get rid of that. Okay. I already had a guess as to what most people would say. Okay. McDonald's owns that category. McDonald's far and away has the best top of mind awareness in all fast food. Okay. What does that mean? Right? The question becomes, what's it mean that they have top of mind awareness? If you're in the fast food business and that's the only question you asked and knew the answer to, what would that mean to you? What does that tell you for as another fast food company? Right? What's the lesson you learned? Okay. By the way, Anastasia, this Wendy's thing, they're new calling it the nugget thing instead of Wendy's, calling it tendies. I think it's one of the stupidest ads I've seen. I hate it. Absolutely hate it. Okay. Yeah. So yes, yeah, it tells me the brand popularity. And what it says is if I'm in the fast food business, like it or not, I'm going to be compared to McDonald's. They are the prototype in the category. So if I'm in that business at all, at some point I'm going to be compared to McDonald's. It's going to be a trade-off between McDonald's and whatever I'm doing. So people may compare their burgers and they may compare the service and they may compare the shakes. You know, I mean, people have been trying to compare themselves to McDonald's all the time, right? And I actually had the good fortune. I actually got to teach for Coca-Cola Asia Pacific, a consulting job. And they actually taught to all their Asia Pacific people. There were probably about 300 people in the audience. And I was a co-teacher. Okay. I was co-teaching with the chief marketing officer from McDonald's. And why would they have him come there? Because for Coca-Cola, McDonald's represents 10% of all Coca-Cola sales in the world. Right? That's a huge contract. And so, yeah, of course they had them there. And he was presenting, he talked about McDonald's being a hamburger and French fry company. And, after he finished, I was going on next. But during the break, I said to him, I said, I think you got one thing wrong about your company. He said, what's that? I said, you're not a hamburger and French fry company. I said, you're a French fry company. There's a lot of people that make better hamburgers than you, but nobody touches your French fries. And he looked at me like that. And he says, I got to tell you something. He said, based on every piece of research we've ever done, you are, and then he paused dramatically. He said, exactly right. He said, yeah, at one point, Burger King was offering everybody in this country on one day, they were offering them a free pack of French fries. They were introducing their new French fries that, were going to be better than McDonald's fries. That's what their ad said. Come in on this day and try our new fries. They're better than McDonald's fries. And they were actually introducing seasoned fries, the pre-seasoned fries that like the curly fries they have at Arby's, which I know everybody hates. Um, but here's the thing: nobody liked them. Okay, and the answer why? Why didn't people like them? Because they knew before they went in, they had already made up their minds. No, they're not going to be as good as McDonald's fries. They're already biased by the brand equity that McDonald's had. Okay, so let's argue for a minute that having best top of mind awareness makes you the best in your category. So if McDonald's is the best fast food place, what's the worst fast food place? What's the fast food place you say, I never eat there? There's no way I'm not eating there. Who would you pick? Okay. Taco Hell, Subway, Golden Corral. Okay. Taco
Arby's,
Hell again,
Arby's.
Arby's, Jack in the Box.
Wow.
Okay. MN, Arby's, Wendy's. There's your Wendy's. Okay.
Oh,
Pizza Hut. There's a great, what was her name? Ellen show where she said, oh, Portia and I this weekend watched a lot of ads and I learned that Pizza Hut will put absolutely anything in their crust. Okay. They'll stuff it with anything. White Castle, whoever A is. There's a lot of people from the Midwest who would disagree with you. Okay. I happen to be on your side. All right. So there's a lot of places, all right, that have a lot of arguments. Okay. But based on, and whoever said Jack in the Box, you mind telling people who Jack in the Box is? Because they're not everywhere. So you mind telling people who Jack in the Box is?
it's like a Roy Rogers.
Yeah. Yeah. It tends to be West Coast and Southern.
Mhm.
But they were back in the 90s. 80s and 90s, they were the company that was Jack in the Box. No, Jack in the Box is not Hardee's, by the way, BP. Carl's Jr. is Hardee's. Okay. How do I know that? Because I lived in LA and I lived in Virginia. So Carl's Jr. and Hardee's are the same thing. And that little star that's in both of them, that's what they have in the saying. Right. Carl's and Starburger is Hardee's. Correct. Um, so they're the same. And this is fun. I get to do some executive teaching. I was teaching a program out at UCLA that I still go back and do. It's a nonprofit, it's Head Start, which is for the it's preschool education and socialization for the families of the poorest of the poor in this country. And I teach directors of Head Start centers how to do marketing in their community. It's some of the whole person idea of giving something back, and that's just an organization I choose to work with. I remember going out to UCLA. This is a few years back, and they asked me. They said to me when I was out there, "What do you think of the new Carl's Jr. ad?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" They said the new Carl's Jr. ad with Paris Hilton. And I said, I still don't know what you talk about, but we'll come back to that. So at break, I put on the ad for people who wanted to talk about it. And it's got Paris Hilton in a bikini, flaunting her body, eating a Carl's Jr. big burger, whatever it is, and like the juice dripping out of it and all that. It was like totally sex. You know, if you wanted sex, you should get one of these burgers. I don't think it's going to, if you eat those burgers, Paris Hilton's not going to be interested. You're not going to look too good. But that was the ad. And so they said, "What do you think of that ad?" And I said, "I think Carl is dead." And they said, "What?" I said, "I think Carl is dead." I said, "Carl is a staunch conservative right-wing Republican who gives a ton of his money to Republican causes." I said, "There's no way if he's alive he would let that ad run. It's totally antithetical." So we looked it up. And sure enough, he had died 6 months earlier. And the family that took over, the family members that took over, were totally trying to reposition the brand. Okay, so Jack in the Box is out there with Carl's Jr. Okay, and I'm going to use them for an example for a minute. Okay, this is why I asked you know Jack. Okay, because I want to talk about Jack in the Box. Jack in the Box has, by the way, I saved it. There was an article on yesterday, Monday, article of chefs around the country ranking the best 10 the top 10 fast food restaurants, who had the best burger and who had the worst burger. And coming in 10th out of 10 was Jack in the Box from Nationwide Chefs. Okay. Little background story about Jack in the Box. Okay. Jack in the Box was not always owned by Jack. Jack in the Box had a corporate parent at one point. At first, it was independent. It got purchased by a corporation. This is the corporate logo of that corporation. Okay. Anybody recognize this logo? If you do, just put it in the chat.
Farina? Someone
Uh,
wrote Farina.
all right, TM, you're on a roll here. That is Ross.
Travis Miller.
Travis Miller, you're in. Okay. Wait, did he do the primary research also?
Probably.
Man, you're all. Hey, ES, you can't be jumping on the Purina now. It's too late. Okay. But yeah, that's Ralston Purina's logo. Jack and okay. Oh, Savannah Davis. Okay. Um, okay. So Savannah, good move. So it was Savannah Davis, and Savannah just changed her initials from TM to SD. Good move. Savannah, you're in my class. All right. So they were owned by Ralston Purina. And Ralston Purina was trying to build their corporate equity and talk about invest in our company because we do so many different things. Well, what does Ralston Purina do? What do they make? What are they known for? Dog
Dog.
food is correct. They make dog food. They make dog food. They make cat food. Purina cat chow, Purina dog chow. They call all their foods chows. And if you're from a rural area where they have silos, a lot of time on farm silos, you will actually see a Ralston Purina logo. That's because they make all kinds of foods. They make horse chow. They make cow chow. They make pig chow. You have it. They make chicken chow. You have an animal. They make a chow. Okay. Well, it just so happens they also made people chow, and the people chow was called Jack in the Box. And in order to get corporate investors, they actually put the Jack in the Box, I mean, the Ralston Purina logo on every cardboard box that had one of their burgers in it, a Jack in the Box. So on the bottom of the box is a Ralston Purina logo. So right before you're about to bite into their burger, you see this dog food sign. Okay. People didn't like their burgers. This is late 80s, early 90s. People didn't like their burgers. Here's the other thing. Okay. Just by, well, I guess you're just going to have to answer. I can't do a vote, but I don't know how you feel, okay? But how many people like myself hate clowns? I think clowns are creepy as hell, okay? I do not like clowns. It's funny because I took both my kids, when they were little, I took them both to the circus 2 years apart because they were different ages. And both of them cried like crazy when they saw the clowns. Scared the hell out of them, okay? Why would you pick that as your corporate logo? Right? And Rhonda, you're going to have to play with me now. Okay. So, because you're the only one
Okay.
whose mic's on. I want you to complete the following. You ready?
Oh Lord.
Dun,
Okay.
dun, 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 dun.
Pop goes the weed.
Pop goes the wheel. Okay. This is the absolute worst toy ever invented, ever, period, ever. Okay. This is invented by an engineer who had to be out of work. Because I can tell you, I talked about Head Start a minute ago. Head Start is from kids ages 0 to 5. Right? What does the kid do the first time it does a Jack in the Box? They do the thing, that little, song play, and this clown, pop goes the weasel, and this clown comes out. What do kids do with the first time they play with this? Right? Anybody want to guess what they do the first time they play with this?
Cry,
Correct.
scream.
The correct answer is scream and cry. Okay. What a great toy. I've invented a toy that can make children cry. Why would you pick that as your logo? Right. I mean, I don't get it. I don't. So people didn't like their logo. Okay. People didn't like the Ralston Purina affiliation. People didn't like their food. Right. Everything's gone bad. So they decided we need to fix this. Well, in marketing, I don't know why people believe this is true, but it's the worst advice ever given. Okay. Ever, period, ever. I'm good, big on it, period, ever. Okay. The worst advice a marketing consultant has ever given anyone is if your brand is having problems, advertise. Well, one of my colleagues who's at Wharton once made a comment to me that I thought was one of the best ever. And he said, there's nothing like good advertising to kill a bad brand. So nobody likes anything about you. So they advertise. Let's advertise more. And what they did, okay, what they did in their advertising, they did. So if we look at this is a Likert scale, okay, that you see all the time. So not liking a brand, okay, and loving a brand. So at the time, this is the early 90s, okay, or it was the late 80s. Jack in the Box is around a 2-3 on a Likert scale. And McDonald's at that point, at least, was like a 6-7. So what Jack in the Box did, because in the mid 80s, comparative advertising became legal in the United States. You could actually say your competitor's name in your ad. And Jack in the Box took out one of the first multi-million-dollar campaigns and did a comparative advertising and said, come eat at Jack in the Box. Our hamburgers taste better than McDonald's hamburgers. Okay. And that was the reaction. And so, what's your reaction to that? If I told you Jack in the Box burgers taste better than McDonald's burgers, what would you say to me? What's your reaction? And this is why I don't record my classes, okay? Because you can say anything you want to say. So what's your reaction to that? Okay. No way, maybe, kick rocks. Okay. All right. Neither of them are good. That's a bold statement. Okay. Because nobody else is going to write this. Okay. I'll write it. Okay. Bullshit. Okay. Bullshit. The most common response to a marketing communication is called a counter argument. People do not want to be bothered with your ads. People think you're trying to influence them. So the most common response to an advertisement is to totally disagree with whatever it says. Okay. So you may have heard, Ford, okay, Ford for decades, Ford advertised at Ford, quality is job one. Okay. Can anybody write down there? What does Ford stand for? What does FORD stand for? Down on
Wow.
road debt. Okay. That's correct. Okay. That's one of found on road dead, fix or repair daily. Okay. That's a counter argument, right? Ford was advertising where quality job one, and people in their heads are saying found on road dead, right? People are disagreeing with the ads. So that's called a boomerang effect. So Jack in the Box spent millions of dollars running a campaign. Can you see my cursor move?
Yeah.
Okay. They spent millions of dollars saying we're better than McDonald's. After they ran that campaign for the first month, people liked them even less. Not only do you make crappy hamburgers, you're a bunch of liars. Okay. So their campaign was a disaster. And that means they need to do something different. They got to change things. Okay. So here's your job. Here's your job for the case for today. Fix it. I just want you to throw out some ideas for fixing this. Okay, so I'm going to go here. Let me do this. Control C. Okay, since we can't do it the way I thought we'd do it. Okay, um, just throw out ideas. Give me some ideas for fixing it. Fix Jack in the Box problem. So, okay, nothing bad has happened there yet. I'll talk about something bad that happened later on, but fix it. Give me some ideas. How do we make Jack in the Box better? How do we fix them? Give me some ideas. Just whatever comes
Adam
to mind.
said, Adam said change logo.
Okay, change the logo.
Um, Travis said start with focus groups for actual feedback.
Oh, okay, Travis, you're eliminated. Okay. That I want you to fix it. I want you to go do all this research. Okay. Fix it. Give me the ideas for fixing it. Do things.
Savannah wrote, get a celebrity that's well liked to do a commercial.
Celebrity spokesperson. Okay. Give me some more.
Micaiah wrote, food must taste better.
Okay. Better food.
Uh, Mario said the same thing, improve food quality.
Okay. Improve food.
Travis wrote back, said, ditch the clown.
Okay. Ditch the clown. Ditch the well, that's okay. Ditch the usually says something else at the end. Okay. Ditch the
uh,
clown. Okay.
Anastasia said, brand packaging, new item launch.
Let's do a new item launch. What would she like to make? Give me an idea for a new item.
Let's see. She said, yeah, add that, Anastasia. What would you like
Yeah,
on the
what kind of
menu?
new food?
Yeah, Brent said the same thing. Update menu options.
Okay, just give me one. Give me something you want to see on the menu. Chicken, tacos. What do you want?
Savannah wrote vegan options.
Vegan.
Anastasia came back with a new milkshake, maybe
Milkshake.
chicken
Okay.
options.
All right. Shake it options.
Chicken options.
Chicken.
Hmm.
Okay. All right. Okay, that's good. We'll do that. Okay. Anything else you want to do? Any other ideas you can think of?
Improve service.
Okay, improve your service. So just make changes to the restaurant itself, improve the service. Okay, improve service, improve the ambiance. Ooh. Okay, anything
More
else?
ads on social media.
Okay, yeah, there was no social media back then there, but that's okay. Social media, basically
Change,
more and different ads.
yeah.
Okay,
Change prices.
change. Okay, who said change prices?
That was, oh Lord, they're all coming. Adam.
Okay, Adam, you want them higher or lower? Yeah, I can change the price, but I can go either way. Should I make it more or less?
I got one that says remodel the restaurant.
Okay. So I still got to know from Adam more or less.
Let's see.
Let's suppose it's lower prices. So
Okay.
a lot of people here were from DC. Okay. So I'm gonna say something about DC. We have a restaurant here near campus. Okay. It's called the Tombs, and it's a big student hangout. Okay. No, I'll do another one. We have a restaurant here that's the students' favorites. Okay. It's called Wisey's. And it's this restaurant called Wise Mill that you just go pick up food and you go eat it elsewhere. They have something called Chicken Madness. Okay. Chicken Madness is a sandwich. It's got to be 2,000 calories. It's got two chicken breasts, cheese, bacon, mayonnaise, I mean, everything that's horrible for you. But it tastes really good. They also have a Burger Madness. And I'd say the thing is probably like $12.95. Okay. So this is on changing prices. People always think, okay, so suppose I told students here, hey, you know what? Did you see at Wisey's this week? This week only, the Burger Madness or Chicken Madness. It's not $12.95. It's on sale for $9.95. And I actually asked my class this now. And I said, how many of you want to go get one? And everybody's raising their hand. I said, wow. I said, did you know that this week only, it's only $7.95? They all raised their hand. Yeah, I said, did you know that this week only, it's only 95 cents? You can get one for 95 cents. How many people want to go now? And about three-quarters of the people put down their hands. I said, wait a second, it's a better deal. And they said, no, at 95 cents, they got to be serving me, they're serving me salmonella. There's something the matter with that chicken that they're selling that sandwich, it's regularly $12.95 for 95 cents. Prices are a signal of quality. And at some point, your price is so low that I can't even consider it as being a quality product. And at other times, your prices are so high that you've priced me out of the market. Okay, so price changes can go either way, but there's limits. So the whole idea in economics that there's only one price elasticity is absolutely wrong. One of the things I love to do in my class is to violate economic theory all the time. There's many different price elasticities for prices higher or lower. It's not a straight line. It's curvature depending on how low you go and where the thresholds are. Okay. Any other ideas, Rhonda, that came up?
Promotional events to highlight new menu changes.
So let's do some events. Okay. Give me a couple more if there's anything else.
Discount in partnerships with certain communities.
Discount for certain, okay, communities. Okay. All right. Give me one more.
Let's see. More drive-through locations.
Okay, drive-through. Okay. Oh, you know what's interesting? This is kind of an interesting thing that I also learned teaching with the guy, the CMO from McDonald's. Do you know what percentage of McDonald's business happens at a window? So of all the business in McDonald's, what percentage of that business is at drive-through as opposed to in the restaurant? You had to guess.
70% from
Okay.
David. Adam
Okay.
said 90, Nicole
Okay.
said 75.
Okay. And the correct answer is it's for some people may hear 70, 75 and think that's way high. The right answer is 80%. 80% of their business happens at the drive-through. Okay. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute. Because it's going to be another lesson out of here. Okay. So has anybody taken a marketing course before? Wait, you don't have to say yes or no. For someone who's taken a marketing course before, we talk about the 3 C's and the 4 P's. Can somebody send to Rhonda what the 4 P's are? If anybody knows, what are the 4 P's? Right. Erica, good job. Okay, A, look at it. Okay, A, whoever A is, okay, you're in the program also. So for everybody, the 4 P's of marketing are product, price, right, placement, and promotion. Okay, thank you. Okay, AT, you get credit too. Product, price, place, and promotion. Okay, here's the thing: place is a misnomer because we say place, but there's never been a chapter in any textbook I've ever read or used, and I don't use textbooks anymore because of issues like this. There's always a chapter on distribution, but there's no chapter called place. So in my classes, I call it distribution. We have product, price, promotion, and distribution. So we can have all P's, okay? So let's see what you came up with, okay? Change the logo, change the spokesperson, okay? Run these kinds of events. All of these things have something in common. So I'm just going to say red, okay? Red, ditch the clown, red, okay? Promotional events, okay? Those are all promotion. That's all in the communication. Those are all promotion. Okay. Let's see. Remodel the restaurant, improve services, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I'm going to make that green. Okay. That's place. That's all about the place. Okay. better food, improved food, new items. Okay. All of that, I will leave it in black. All of those are product. Okay. Packaging is interesting to me. Oh, this is also promotion. So communications is promotion. So that goes in promotion. Okay. Change the prices. Okay. Um, Offer discounts for certain communities. Okay. Those are all price. Okay. Drive through is actually changing the restaurant as well. So that's another thing that's place. So let me give one more place. Okay. There we go. Okay. As a class, you guys get an A+ for naming the 4 P's of marketing. You just invented the 4 P's of marketing without even trying. You got everything there. Every one of the P's is represented. But this is how people think all the time. Okay. Okay, let's change these things. Well, suppose I said to you, whoever said, okay, let's find a celebrity spokesperson. Who do you want to use? Okay. What celebrity do we want? Let's suppose we picked, I don't know, pick a celebrity. Somebody
Not the
pick.
Kardashian.
Yeah, let's pick a Kardashian. Okay, let's pick a Kardashian. Well, okay. Oh God, I was about to say something that was totally unfiltered. Um, you know, the Kardashian. She's on the front of a magazine showing her new ass, right, and how big it is since she had implants put in it. Okay, that's who you want as your spokesperson. I mean, I'm not sure that that fits the brand, right? The celebrities you use should actually fit the brand that's being advertised. I'm not sure that the Kardashians are big Jack in the Box people, right?
They have Bad Bunny, The Rock, Travis Kelsey,
Okay. All right.
Olivia Dean.
Okay. Now let's take Travis. I'm gonna take Travis Kelsey for a second. How many things do you think he advertises? How many different brands do you think are under his name now? Right? This is going to be his 25th brand, right? I don't believe him anymore. I don't think he uses all the brands he lists. I don't think Travis Kelsey is eating a Jack in the Box. Okay. So it's, but there's a lot of people we can fit. And here's the other part. Suppose we had done, let's say, so suppose we're Hertz Auto Cars. Okay. We're Hertz Car Rental. They were #1 in the world. Okay. Hertz Rental Car. Anybody know who back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, anybody know who their spokesperson was? They had a single spokesperson. Anybody know who it was?
Someone wrote OJ
Correct.
Simpson.
It was O.J. Simpson. Okay. What happens when your spokesperson does something bad? Right? I mean, somebody listed for the worst food, somebody listed Subway. Anybody know what happened to Jared?
Yes.
Jared is in jail for child pornography, and that was their spokesperson. Okay. The problem with spokespeople, you can't control everything they do, and they need to fit the brand. Should people use spokespeople? Absolutely use them. Okay. But it's got to fit the brand, and they have to be loyal to the brand, and you have to be ready for things that go bad. Right? Most companies abandon people that go bad. Dennis Rodman, I don't know if anybody's an NBA basketball fan and remembers Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman lost his Nike contract because he fell in a Chicago game. He got tripped up. He ran into a cameraman who was there. And instead of helping the cameraman up, he kicked him instead. Okay. Nike fired him the next morning. Okay. The next day, Converse hired him because Converse wanted to have this rebellious reputation. Okay. The following week, Nike bought Converse. So he was still in the fold. But Nike doesn't always I spent a day in my class doing the Colin Kaepernick Nike ad. And we decided as a class, should we buy Nike stock or should we sell it? Because it was way down the morning after that campaign started. And we said, well, let's analyze the market and figure out what to do. Bottom line is we decided to buy the stock and it would have been a good move. Okay. So, all right. Better food. I don't know what better food is. Right. I have no idea what better food is. Okay. All of these ideas, I could argue against anything. I'm not saying they're bad ideas. Okay. But I could counter argue any idea you had in here. I don't know if these are good ideas or bad ideas. Okay. But every one of these ideas has something in common. Jack in the Box needs to do something what? What's the word? Jack in the Box needs to do something different. Okay.
Different.
Be right. Okay. Different. When Rhonda introduced the Flex program at the very beginning, she said, "Hey, we offer a unique program." Okay. My reaction, I have a definition of marketing in my class. It says marketing success is a function of SW square C. Right? SW square C. What's the C stand for? See, which of you have been listening so far? What's C stand for? Stumped. Come on. Consumer. Good.
Consumer.
Okay. EH. You get an A for effort and you get an F for not having the wrong answer. Okay. Because that's right thinking. You're thinking like a marketer, and that's exactly right. Consumers drive markets. Okay. But this is much simpler than that. I'm not that deep. Okay. SW square C stands for two questions. SW with a question mark and WC with a question mark. Everything in marketing goes down to answering two simple questions. Okay, SW question mark and WC question mark. Okay, now fill in the words. There's actually, I will send it to you. You're going to have to give Rhonda your address at the, okay. So wait. So SD it was the first one to do it. Okay.
Savannah Davis said, "So what? Who
Yeah.
cares?"
Okay. So
Brent
right.
said the same
Right.
thing.
Okay. But she got it first. Okay. Rhonda, could you have these people's addresses? I'm going to send you something from Georgetown. Okay. There's two questions that if you get it right, I'm sending you a prize. So SD, you got a prize coming to you. Just make sure Rhonda has your address. Okay. Okay. So what? Who cares? Marketers need to only answer two questions. So what and who cares? The correct answer to who cares is the consumer. Whoever said consumer earlier, you're right. The correct answer is who cares is the consumer. And the answer to so what is what does this consumer or this consumer set care about? Everything else is puffery. Okay. Puffery is the advertising word for bullshit. Okay. Everything else is a waste of your time. If it doesn't answer those two questions, who's the customer and what's the customer care about, you're wasting your time and effort. So, okay, who did I reprimand earlier? Now you have to admit it yourself again. Who said do a survey in focus groups? Who wrote that?
Go back
Okay.
to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Okay. Who said
Oh,
that?
it was
TM
Travis
said that.
Miller.
Okay. Travis Miller. Okay. Travis Miller, you get a prize. Okay. Because that was the exact right answer. The only way we can decide how to fix Jack in the Box is to do primary marketing research, right? There was a reason I brought that up in the beginning. The only way I can fix a down brand, okay, is to do primary marketing research, which means I've got to go out and interview customers. I need to go talk to my customers and I need to ask them three questions. What do you like about our brand? What do you dislike about our brand? What else could we be doing for you that nobody's really doing? Okay. Do people really fill out surveys though? You don't have to do a survey. You can just ask them. You can ask them online. They'll answer, right? There's brand research all the time. But I don't only need to talk to my customers, I need to talk to their customers. I need to interview McDonald's customers, right? And survey them. What do you like about McDonald's burgers? What do you dislike about McDonald's burgers? What do you wish McDonald's would do that they don't even offer? I need to pick out people who may, fit the profile of a fast food user, but don't eat any fast food. And I want to ask them, why do you not eat fast food? What is it that you don't like about fast food? What do you wish some fast food company would do that's not out there? And I identify all the opportunities. Okay. People don't want to fill out surveys. You know how to get them to fill out surveys? Offer them Amazon gift cards, offer them money and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if you know this or not, but Amazon, which sells absolutely everything, is a monopoly, and the Department of Justice is looking into. They also offer a consumer database. It's called MTurks. And MTurks, I can get if I want 500 surveys done today to get back by tomorrow morning, I can have them done in about 2 hours on Amazon MTurks. It'll cost me 50 cents a person. So I can get all these data. And I can ask them, what fast food places do you eat at? Okay, and I find out if they said McDonald's, then I can ask them, what do you like about McDonald's? What do you dislike? What else could they do for you? I could do that for every, and I get 500, boom. I'm running a survey. People don't know this, but I'm doing a research survey on the effectiveness of Super Bowl advertisements. I've run it before and I'm running it again. Um, Nielsen sent me it. Yeah. Okay. Um, right. Right. So for $10, is it worth you spending, an hour of your TV viewing to fill out their survey? Right. People do it for cheap. I am now on the Walmart survey team. I fill out surveys for Walmart. Okay. Why? Do I really care? No, but I want to see what kind of questions they're asking their consumers so I can take their questionnaires and use them as examples in my class of how to write a good questionnaire, how to write a bad questionnaire. So yeah, it's worth it for me. So what it takes me 10 minutes to fill out one of their surveys in order to have access to all their surveys. That's a good deal for a professor. Okay. They didn't ask me what I did for a living. They asked me, they're giving me, so far I think I've earned like 78 cents from Walmart. I've done like 6 surveys. I'm like, yes. Okay. 78 cents is really not going to affect my life. So if I ask all these questions, okay, then what I want to look at, and this is your use of the word unique, okay? You don't need to be different than other restaurants, okay? The Georgetown Flex MBA does not need to be unique compared to other MBA programs, okay? So somebody write this down. They don't need to be different. We don't need to be different. Jack in the Box does not need to be different. They do not need to be unique. They need to be what word? This is another prize. Okay. Damn.
Savannah
All
wrote better.
right, Savannah. Okay. So that Savannah, get Savannah's address. That's correct. You need to be better. Okay. And here's the big prize. So everything so far is little prize. Is this for the biggest prize? I will send somebody a Georgetown sweatshirt. Okay. If they can answer this question for me. What is the difference between different and better? So all your ideas, okay. No, 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 no. It's more than one word. Better means, wait, that's not even the equity. Different is
Blank.
stand out. Better is superior. Okay, but what makes it superior? Better than the competition. Okay, better than competition. That's all respect. Better is quality. Quality is also a puffery word, by the way. Consumer perception is not it either. A brand can be different and better at the same time. Yes, but it can also be different and worse. Okay, just one second. Wait a second. Wait, pause for a minute. Okay, something that's unique. That S, we're getting rid of that word. You don't get to use unique anymore. You don't get to use different anymore. Everybody in marketing talks about differentiate your brand. Don't differentiate your brand. Betterentiate your brand. Okay, and that it's improvements, yeah, becomes more popular, yeah, all that stuff. So there's a company, okay, that's in the rap business, and I don't mean rap like music, I mean rap like Saran wrap and Glad wrap, okay. No, making more money, no, is wrong also, okay. There's a like stronger positive impression, sales, customer point of view, okay. Yeah, it's all point of view, but it's more than that. Okay. All right. I would give you the answer. And if you feel like that's what you were saying, better is focus on incremental in comparison to the competition. No, more reliable. No,
They
you
really
should.
want that sweatshirt.
Yeah, they do want that sweatshirt. Okay. Better means better means that you're different. How? Better means I'm different. How? There's a lot of difference in the saran wrap business. Okay. There's one company that started making colored plastic wrap because they wanted to be different and unique, but nobody buys it. Okay. That company's called Reynolds, right? That company's, thank you. That was a great question. 40 points for AT. They don't count for anything, but they have 40 points when their application comes in. Okay. You solve the issues customers have. ZA, you're the closest person yet. Okay. Better creates value. Okay. Complete the following. Better means I'm different. Finish that sentence. Better means I'm different and finish the sentence. Better means I'm different No, 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 I'm different but the same. No, definitely don't want to be that. No, better means I'm different. Okay, yeah, finish that. Better means I'm different in ways that matter. Oh, wait, wait, wait. AL. So
Adam,
just AL for a second. AL for a second. Okay. Go AL means okay, hold on. I got to go back to AL. Better means where's AL? In ways that matter. AL, finish that. Finish the sentence. This is just for AL. Finish that sentence. Better means I'm different in ways that matter. Can keep going with the same sentence.
to the consumer.
Is that what AL said?
Yeah.
AL, you got a sweatshirt coming. Okay. Better means
Adam
I'm
Lemon.
okay. Better get Adam's address. Better, and I'm sending you an extra large. I don't know what size you are. Unless you need bigger than extra large, let Rhonda know what size you want. But they run small. Better means I'm different in a way that matters to the customer. Right? Everything else is puffery. Our program can be unique, but who cares? Are we colored plastic wrap because we offer a flex program? What makes our program better than the other programs that are available? Right? Decide what you want out of your MBA program, and are we the best place for doing that? Right? We may not be the best for everybody. If you want to go into entertainment marketing, we're probably not the best place. If you want to go into nonprofit marketing, we're probably a really good place for that, right? Better than competitors in town here, right? If you want to stay and work in the DC area only, and you're local to, you're a Maryland resident, you could probably do the Flex MBA program at Maryland and save a lot of money because you want to stay here and work locally because they have a really good program locally. However, if you want worldwide opportunities, if you want to work on Wall Street up in New York, you better come from here because that cachet extends way beyond the local area, right? I was doing a program, pitching an executive program, okay, in Switzerland. And I was there with a team that included people from Duke. And they were talking about why Duke executive education, all this. And they said, why are you here? I said, I teach at Georgetown, but I'm a professor at Duke in this particular executive program at that time. I don't do this anymore. And they said, oh, Georgetown, Catholic. That's the top Catholic school, and everybody in Europe was Catholic. So yeah, we want to be part of that. Our reputation is not regional. Our reputation is international. If that's important to you, yeah, it's worth paying a little more to get that. Okay. So it means being different in a way that actually matters to your customer. Everything else is puffery. Okay. So where does that get us? Okay. What do we learn? Okay. So what we learn is, all right, yeah, did they get rid of their logo? Yeah, they got rid of their logo. Okay. And they replaced it with this guy who you may or may not have seen before. So they did the research. They did the research. One of the things they found out is people didn't like their burgers. Okay. So they asked them, what did they not like about them? How do we make them more tasty? How do we do all this kind of stuff? And they made better burgers based on taste tests. Okay. They did research and they found out that, hey, look, McDonald's is really all about kids and families. There's no fast food restaurant at that time, no fast food restaurant for adults. So Jack in the Box made their regular burger a quarter-pound burger. The quarter pounder at that time was added to McDonald's menu as a reaction to what Jack in the Box doing. Okay. Jack in the Box said, if we're going to cater to adults, we don't want burgers with just, cheese and ketchup or whatever. They started making mushroom and Swiss burgers. They made patty melts. They offered veggie burgers at one point. Okay. They started recognizing, especially out in California, populations have changed. There's a lot of Mexican Americans out there. And why don't we have ground beef anyway? Why don't we make tacos? Well, there's a huge influx of Asian Americans who aren't being catered to. What do they want? They started making rice bowls, okay, with different foods on it. And they did every new move they did based on research. And in the early 1990s, of all the companies that were threatening McDonald's, it wasn't Burger King or Wendy's they were worried about. Jack in the Box was coming at them faster than anyone else. their stock prices are soaring was Jack in the Box. Okay. Unfortunately, in the mid 1990s, in Washington State, people found out Jack in the Box invented E. coli. Okay. In the mid 90s, nobody had ever heard of E. coli before until people ate a Jack in the Box in Washington State and died from E. coli poisoning. Right. And when that happened, huge disaster. But when it happened, people said, "Oh yeah, of course it was that Jack in the Box. They always made shitty burgers." Right? Negative reputations don't go away. They just remain dormant for a long time until they're relevant again. So people said that. And Jack in the Box, when it first happened, Jack in the Box said it's not our fault. We got bad beef from the Vaughn's meatpacking plant in Northern California. Vaughn's meatpacking plant said it's not our fault. There's cooking standards. And Jack in the Box is cutting corners to make it faster. They don't cook their meat the way they're supposed to. So they both end up looking bad. When you see on the menu now that says, hey, we cook all our meats medium well unless you specify otherwise, there's that little footnote. That's because of Jack in the Box. They changed all that. Okay. I know I have to finish up. Okay. So they did fix it. All right. But then they had this huge disaster. They used this guy to take it over. They've done some very creative advertising to come back, although they never come back to the way they were before. Okay? But they did the right research to get there. So I like to use them as a living case. And the living case is you can't develop marketing tactics until you do your marketing homework, until you formulate a marketing strategy. And that's what the three C's are in marketing. The three C's of marketing are the company, the customer, and the competition. Okay. I cannot develop tactics using the P's until I understand what the customer wants, who the customer is, what that they want, right? What the different segments are. How do I go about segmenting markets? Demographic segmentation is about the stupidest segmentation strategy you can possibly use anytime, anywhere, because all it does is create stereotypes that are going to come back and bite you in the ass. But I need to understand customers, their desires, their changes, that kind of stuff. I need to understand, can my company meet those desires, and can I do it in a way that is better from the customer's perspective than the competition does. Okay, that's the marketing lesson for today. And so it all comes down to the so what, who cares. By the way, for those of you who want to see the original Jack in the Box, that was the original Jack in the Box restaurant. There's no question but that clown, when your son or daughter's coming into the restaurant, that clown's going to come down, eat your child, and pop back up there. Okay. I think it's scary as hell. So yeah, that's the way I look at it. Okay. These are actually, I will make these available to Rhonda. She can post them. These are actually the ads they use to make their comeback. So each of these is actually a link to an ad on YouTube. Okay. And that's it. Okay. So I'll skip some slides because I don't have time. Okay. So things to know. The difference between marketing tactics and marketing strategy. What we teach is strategy comes before tactics. The C's come before the P's. Okay. Primary and secondary research, we talked about. We get the importance of better being different in ways that actually matter to your customer. And here, I want to offer you the opportunity. Okay. If you want to do this and you're the customer, this is Georgetown, this is other MBA programs, make a list of what you really want out of a program. What is it that you're looking for as the customer and what you want to come out of your programs and all that, and then investigate us versus the other ones. Okay. And hopefully this area here, this overlap, the orange area, I hope that our orange area overlap with you is huge. That's called the competitive advantage. What do we do that match what you want that the other programs around don't offer? And if that works, then we're worth the investment for you. Because it is. It's $100 and some $1,000, almost $200,000 investment. What's the return on your investment given what you want? So if you want to do one of these, my email, so I'll give it to Rhonda as well, but my email is Goodster, Goodster, Goodster at georgetown.edu. If you want to do this and want to talk about the program or any of the programs relative to what you want to do and fill this out, I'll be happy to do so. Okay. Again, I'll put it in Goodster at georgetown.edu. Okay. Feel free to email me. I'd be happy to talk to you about the programs. Okay. So, um, these are the lessons I wanted you to get out of it today. You should benchmark against customers, not against your competition. Okay. Do it for us and do it for another school you might be interested in and talk about and then ask yourself, what did the analysis show you? And we don't need to be unique. We offer unique attributes, but they're only better if they matter to you, to what we do. So figure out what it is you want and go there. Okay. So that's my class. I'm ask any questions you want to ask, if there are any. Right. If not, I hope to see you here. I hope that you will ask me questions and send me email. I'm a little slow at replying, especially while I'm on sabbatical. But I'm here. I will eventually get to your email within a week. Okay. You're welcome. It was my pleasure. I love doing this. So it was my pleasure. Thank you.
You all for joining us this evening. If you have any questions, please connect with Professor Goodstein or myself. I put our emails in the chat. I hope you enjoyed this class. Gold star for everyone that participated in the chat. A great conversation, great class. Thank you, Professor, for joining us.
Yeah. And please send her, for the people I owe gifts to. Okay. Please send Rhonda your addresses, and whoever got the big gift, just remind her I got the big gift. You get the big one, and tell me what size. Okay.
Let me try it again. It seems that.
Yeah. So I put my name and I put it in this chat. Um, so it's somewhere up there. But again, I'll put it one more time. So it's goodster@georgetown.edu. Okay. If you
So
can't get
for
it,
my, go ahead, sorry.
if you can't get it, just look up the program and just remember Goodstein, and it's all on there under my faculty profile.
My email is rr1123@georgetown.edu. So again, rr1123@georgetown.edu.
Okay. Right. Have a good night. Good luck with your decision. And hopefully we'll see you here come next fall.
Right. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Good night.
Thank you, Professor.
Uh-huh. Thanks, Rhonda.